Hey, everybody, welcome to tonight's episode of The Rope of Hope. Tonight I have Sam Mitchell on with me with his beautiful mother, Gina. Hi, guys, how are you?
I'm all right. I think she appreciates the compliment, beautiful. But
Hey, yeah, I
but
do.
thank you for letting us be on. And all kidding aside, thank you for letting us be on. It's great to be here.
Yeah,
of,
thank you very much for having us. We're excited to be here.
of course, of course. Now, before we jump in, you guys, if you want to help support this broadcast, if you appreciate the message that I'm putting forth, please go to buymeacoffee.com/, this fat girl life. You guys know I live off caffeine. Also, that is the first place I put the tea. And there is some big tea that will be announced this week. You already got last week's tea. There's more coming. And as a reminder of last week's tea, I have merch, you guys. I have started my own merchandise line. It is on T Public. The link for it is in the show notes. So go there, click on there. Currently, there's four different designs. It comes in T-shirts, which are very size inclusive. Shirts range from small to every design of shirt I have. You can get in a standard T-shirt, men's size 5X. So I have been very inclusive and very intentional in what I've done. Everything also comes in stickers, in mugs, both standard coffee mugs, travel mugs, masks, you name it, it is available. So that is another way you could support what I'm doing is by purchasing some merch. It is on sale right now, and I know they're going to have another sale on Black Friday, but right now you get a discount. It's 37% off right now. So I highly recommend go check it out. See if you like it. So let's get back into things. Before we get started, Sam, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, first of all, hi everyone. My name is Sam. Um, I do run a podcast called Autism Rocks and Rolls, and it is about autism and how we cope with daily struggles that you may or may not understand. The hobbies I enjoy are creative writing, enjoying the great outdoors. But I also have nearing 7K downloads, and I've had some amazing guests on my show.
Very nice. And Gina, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself as well?
Yeah. Again, thank you for having us. I will say Sam he's actually approaching 8,000 downloads. I think he got kind of into the
Wow.
habit of saying seven, but now he's almost there to 8,000 on
When
his
it hits
podcast.
8K, I'll say that.
I'll clarify that. But yeah, so I'm Gina Mitchell and I'm Sam's mom. By day, I'm a teacher. I teach eighth grade language arts. So I teach middle school kids during the day. And then right now I'm a student again. I'm working on putting badges on my master's degree. So that's like my job that I have. But then my other job, kind of my night job, is helping Sam run his business, Autism Rocks and Rolls, with the podcast. It started as a podcast, still a podcast, but now it's turned into a nonprofit and a business and something much more. So that's where we are.
Well, first off, let me say congratulations on your download number. That's huge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That I'm so envious right now. As far as your masters, I totally get how hard that is. I actually just finished my secondary education. I'm preparing for my graduation. So I get that whole working and going to school, and yeah, it's a lot.
And having a son, especially.
Yeah, I mean, trying to do all three things, but I've had my master's for. Let me think here. I've had my master's for probably, I want to say 13 or 14 years. So I've had my master's for quite a while, but then decided that I love the classroom and I want to continue to teach. But there's some other things out there, but I realized I was going to have to go back and get some things to add to the masters to kind of
Mhm.
on that. So yeah,
All those wonderful extra endorsements.
absolutely.
So I know you guys mentioned, the name of Sam's podcast and business is Autism Rocks and Rolls. So what age were you diagnosed, Sam, with autism? Do you know?
The only I know is I was diagnosed with 4 and I hated loud fireworks. She knows more of the story than I do.
Okay, so mom, what age was he diagnosed?
He was diagnosed with autism when he was 4. And yeah, the hating the loud fireworks was definitely just one of the signs. Now that I look back on it, when we look at baby pictures, he sometimes didn't respond to his name. We had his hearing checked several times, but that always came back, normal. And then he hated loud noises. He lined up his toys.
Never looked at the camera. That was a big
Never
one.
looked at the camera. Still doesn't. But he was very smart. I mean, still very. I mean, he's a smart kid. But we knew. Like I had a couple of kids in my class that had autism. So I suspected. But then when we got the confirmation and the diagnosis, it was tough to try to kind of wrap your mind around that. And then just throughout his life, we've always recognized that Sam has autism. It's just part of who he is. But I always knew that he could be successful. So we just gave him the tools that he needed to do that. And never really let autism get in the way, or I never let him use it. And he's doing some really great things right now.
Well, I know, Sam, you mentioned earlier that the main focus of your podcast is talking about some of those challenges that you face living with autism that people don't even realize. Can you name a couple of those for me?
Yeah, I can go into a little bit depth about them a little bit more.
That'd be great.
One of the challenges that I can think of with off the top of the head is the commerce. I don't do comprehend conversations well. I mean, it's really, I mean, I can understand what's going on, but it's receptive language. I don't get the part of really not paying attention really, but really not following the conversation the proper way sometimes.
Okay. Are there any others you could think
That's
of?
what I think of. And then anxiety,
Anxiety.
bad anxiety. It's cost me to the point where I lay in bed some days.
I think there are a lot of people that deal with that. That's definitely, something a lot of people deal with in different ways.
What else? And then I have to, sometimes in my life, I have to have structures and routines. Depends on what it is, though. I mean, with the podcast, because I love it so much, and I'm very strict with it. I'm very regimented with it. But I'm not sometimes with something I'm okay with. Like cleaning, I'm not too strict about that.
Me either.
I don't believe that for a minute.
So I have a question. I know there's a show on Netflix called Atypical. Have you seen it?
No, we don't have Netflix. We have Prime, bub.
Okay.
But I've heard a lot about it. And I will say, based on what I've heard, it's pretty accurate.
And that's where I was going with that, because I know some of the things that Sam just mentioned. Actually, the name of the character in Atypical is Sam as well, and so I noticed a lot of similarities just from that conversation. So I know my husband and I love that show. We've binged it. I can thank my daughter for it, because she introduced me to it. But it's something that I think a lot of people that don't deal with autism on a regular basis, it's not something they're exposed to. Growing up, the first image of autism I ever saw was the movie Rain Man.
But that's where our advocacy work, that's what we're trying to do, I think, is, with the nonprofit. I mean, we have our mission, and one of our first statements in our mission is to show the successes of all people. And so with the movie Rain Man, it was accurate. I mean, that is how, he processed that information. But I kind of think where we are now is, like the show Atypical. Okay, that's that person. That is how autism is affecting him. But we have to remember that autism is a spectrum. There's, as far as the definition of the spectrum, Rain Man today would have functioning level fit pretty low on that spectrum. And there isn't anything wrong with that. That's what we're trying to, I guess that's the message that we're trying to spread is, no matter where somebody is on that spectrum, every human being has something to offer, especially within the autism population, and that's often ignored.
And anyone with a disability.
Yeah, and anyone with a disability. And so, a lot of times there are negative connotations towards autism. A lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, that Sam has autism." I'm not, and he isn't. And we've never taught him to be sorry for being him. Why would I do that? Like, he's Sam. I'm not going to change him. Autism is a part of who he is, just like there are things about me that's part of who I am. So we're not trying to take away autism, because autism is a thing and it needs to be respected and accepted. But on the flip side of that, why are we not, like, just as a society, why are we not looking at that as a very positive thing, and looking at Dr. Temple Grandin, who is exceptional at what she does, and she couldn't do that without autism. Sam, there's no way that we would be talking to you today if Sam didn't have autism.
Yeah, or didn't do a podcast.
He wouldn't be able to do his podcast. So that's where a lot of people will say, well, this was my first impression of autism, and it's not to anybody's fault. I don't like to even say fault, because that's a negative word, but I just think the perception, I think there's a long way to go still with
I'm going to completely agree with you. And the reason that I agree so strongly is, again, because, that movie came out in the 80s, I believe.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it was a very, very different time, very different stigma.
Different view.
Things have changed drastically in that time. And so, especially to have shows like Atypical and stuff, I think it's very eye-opening, because, again, even I live in a very large city, but I don't have firsthand experience with a lot of people that are on the spectrum. Now, my daughter, I'm going to speak for her right now. She actually, when she was in school, worked with a student who was on the spectrum. And that brought her such joy to be able to do that, and to help him with the accomplishments that he made, and help him get through his day. That was her thing. But being able to see it for myself in some semblance is very eye-opening, because you don't know what you don't know until you know it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that makes sense.
That does, and that's just kind of, I've talked to so many parents since he started this. I mean, we do not claim to be experts on autism, because we're not. I mean, I'm versed in middle school, like, I'm an educator. Sam, at this point, he knows a lot about podcasting and autism, but he's a student right now at college, and that's
I'm still learning on the rope of hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, aww, I love that play on words. I love that.
That was good, buddy.
You're welcome.
That was awesome.
But we don't. I guess what I'm saying is, we don't claim to be we're experts in our story, and that's all we can offer, because everybody's story is different.
Yeah, and you say being smart, I wouldn't be able to figure that out with the rope of hope thing.
No,
I wouldn't be able to figure that out.
But yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know all came aside. I mean, there's some seriousness to it.
Right. Sam is Sam. I mean, that just like I'm me, and he just happens to have a brain that fits the definition of autism. That's all it is.
So, what, going through everything since, and this is a question for both of you, I want you both to answer it. Going from the time of Sam being 4 and getting that diagnosis to, you're how old now?
19.
19. Okay, so through that 15-year span, what has been the hardest moment?
Oh, Lordy, have mercy. probably the times I went home and said, I ain't gonna make it. Screw it, I'm living with you for the rest of my life. I mean, that's basically with me those times. I mean, she may say something similar or agree with me on it, but that's for me at least.
Yeah.
Mom?
Those were hard. Those were hard moments where, we would take 2 steps forward and then something would happen and we'd go backwards. I mean, that was really tough.
Yeah,
But
getting the rug pulled from you 24/7
yeah,
sometimes.
there were times though where for me as a parent, especially when he was between the ages of like, I don't know, like 7 and 12, 7 and 11, somewhere in there. It was very hard to distinguish for me between, is this an autistic moment or is he just really being like a turd? Like which one is it? And
Probably turn mainly.
probably, I'm sure. And even to this,
Looking at it back, I think it was being a turd.
it was, but then that was hard for me because I'm sure, like I would say 99% of the time I kept my cool and I felt like, I'm doing the right thing and I'm accepting Sam but there were moments where I don't even know if I said it out loud. I probably did, but I just wanted to say, why can't you be normal? Why can't you be like other children? And that didn't happen all the time, obviously, because, I didn't think that all the time. But I would be lying if I said that there were moments where I wanted to get in my car and I wanted to drive far, far away by myself and I want to be done. I don't want to do it anymore. And there were moments like that. And I think if any mother generally like that raises children, probably has thought that. But then if you throw special needs on, um, there were moments, but there were not very many in the whole scope of things. So
Okay, so to date, what has been the best moment?
To date,
To to
pro-
date.
probably seeing growing and just seeing when I shine, probably from like hitting milestones when they do happen, because they say better late than never, and it's true.
yeah, I would say the best moment for me, and I don't know exactly when it happened, but there was like this progression of me knowing that Sam is going to be okay. I don't know if it was a moment or if it was just
Probably for you after I
a
graduated.
progression. Yeah, like graduation. I mean, just me knowing, that it just, to me, knowing like even if Sam has to continue to have services when he's 30 years old, living alone or living with a family or whatever direction he goes into, whatever it is, to us that's success. Whatever path Sam goes down, you know, we're going to give him the resources he needs. But for me, it was just knowing he's gonna he's gonna be okay. If I were to die tomorrow, which nobody wants that, but I know that he'll figure it out. I know that.
So Sam, I know right now you're living at home. Is there a thought of living independently at some point?
Maybe. I mean, we'll see what happens next year, because I'm going to go to a summer camp, and that's what I'm basically going to try to do for 5 weeks.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
nice.
he's at a local college right now, and he lives at home. And I we have a neighbor that she goes into the town every day or Tuesdays and Thursdays, so he catches a ride with her, and then I pick him up on those days and we come home. But yeah, this summer he wants to transfer to a different college for media his sophomore year, and they have a summer camp for those with disabilities, and there'll be lots of assistance and lots of help there. But for 5 weeks, he can't come home. I can't go there. I think it's going to be harder on Mama than it is
Yeah.
on Sam.
Do you get to FaceTime at least?
No, nothing.
Oh, that's sad.
Just I think one time he gets to come home on a weekend, and that's it.
So no phone calls or nothing?
I don't think so.
Oh my! Like I'm just thinking about spending that kind of time away from my grandbaby who doesn't even live with me. And I'm like, I have to FaceTime that little boy every day.
Yeah, it's
Oh, that's heart wrenching as a mother. It doesn't
it's
matter what, who the kid is. That's heart wrenching.
yeah, it's gonna be. I just can't even really think about it because I get just panicked. But I know that, because I know that there are so many people that are going to be there assisting him. It's not just like we drop him and leave and then we can't talk to him. This is a program with those with disabilities, and so I know that. And then if anything goes wrong, if they need me, they'll call me. I mean, I know that, so that makes me feel better.
Well, I have one final question for both of you. What is the most inspirational thing that's ever been said to you?
The most inspirational thing that's ever been said to me. Oh wow. Probably my buddy. He's probably just the way he lives. He's so motivated to do stuff that I wouldn't do it if I was in a wheelchair. He knows who he is. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hmm. Yeah, Sam has a best friend who's very inspirational. Oh, well, I guess for me,
When your students say something,
yeah, there's been so many being a teacher.
you can
Um,
mention one of your. You just mentioned Haley or something like that.
well, I know one. There was a couple of times. The There was one time when Sam was 2, and I had a medical scare, and think it ended up being, okay. But at the time, I was having symptoms, and I was diagnosed with MS whenever I was 29, and Sam
Mm.
was 2 years old, and I have been in remission for about 15 years. So things are, you know what I mean? Like things are fine. Like I've
Yeah.
figured things out and I take care of myself, and but I can remember that was obviously a very hard time because I didn't really know anything about it. Learned quickly though that most people with MS will live very normal lives as long as they take medication and take care of themselves. But I can remember I didn't know that at the time, so I just shut down and I went to bed. I had a 2-year-old, and I was like, this is too much. Like, I can't do this. So I went to bed, and my husband, he gave me time. He gave me the time that I needed to he took care of everything. He took care of doctor's appointments. He took care of Sam. He did a great job. But then I remember he came into the bedroom and he just said, well, you can lay here and have MS, or you can get up and have MS. Like, it's your choice. Like, I'm not in here to like badger you and make you feel bad. He said, but let's get real about this. And to me, that was inspirational because he was telling me like, come on, you've got to, we've got a baby, we've got to do this. And that will always stay with me. We've been married almost 25 years, and that was a moment I'll never.
And I actually really, really love that because it's very poignant in all aspects of life. You're that circumstance is not going to change.
Mm-mm.
But what are you going to do about it? Are you going to let it beat you down and control you, or are you going to control the situation and control the narrative? So I really love that. That definitely spoke to my heart right there.
Well, and I think autism can be the same thing. If we take that negative stigma off of autism, I think that a lot of times parents will get this diagnosis. We just did a talk at the local university, and we spoke, or Sam did most of the speaking in front of future nurses. And one of their main questions was, what if I get a patient and their parents are in denial and they won't admit or they won't accept that their child has autism?
Get over it is what I basically
And
said.
that's what we were pretty much said is move on, like get over it. I mean, just quit feeling sorry. I mean, I felt sorry for myself, but it was very short lived, and it is what it is. I mean, so it's kind of the same situation. Like, we can either ignore it and there's going to be lots of problems down the road, or we can accept this and look at how amazing they are, and let's live our life. Let's do it. Let's live. And so I think, but that was a time. that definitely stood with me.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on, for sharing so much, about Sam's personal story, about your personal story. I I'm honored to have met both of you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
The feeling's mutual.
I agree with that too.
And Sam, if somebody wants to listen to your podcast, what is it called again?
Autism Rocks and Rolls. You can basically find on your favorite media platform. And basically, my website's autismrocksandrolls.com, and it has everything on there.
Perfect. Well, I have gone through and put the name of your podcast on the notes. It's actually on the bottom of the screen. So you guys go check out Sam's podcast. Support Sam and what he's doing. Let's get him up above 8,000 downloads. I want to help with that. So let's get Sam above 8,000 because I want to hear him. I want to get a message from him saying, "Hey, I hit 8,000."
We'll do it.
All right.
Well, I hope you guys have an amazing night. Again, thank you so much for being here with me. I will be back next week. My brain is kind of on cold medicine fog, so I cannot remember who my guest next week is. I apologize in advance. But you guys go check out the merch line, check out Sam's podcast, and feel free to buy me a coffee. Till next week, guys.
Bye.